Alright, this is it guys. 220 kilograms. Triple body weight deadlift. No, it wasn't real. That was Photoshop and visual effects. But here's the crazy part. It is physically possible for someone with my body weight and muscle development to pull this weight. And I'm going to prove to you exactly why by the end of this video. You've seen the videos. Smaller guys sometimes outlift much bigger guys. How is that even possible? If muscle is what moves the weight, how can smaller muscles lift more? Stick around, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about strength training. And before we dive in, if you find this valuable, smash that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to see what's coming. The answer is that strength depends on many factors besides muscle size. Look at this graphic. Muscle size is indeed the most important factor, but it's far from the only one. Let me prove it to you with science. When researchers extract a muscle sample from someone's leg, isolate a single fiber, and measure its force output, they find something fascinating. The fiber's thickness directly predicts its force capacity. The relationship is almost perfectly linear. Thicker fiber, more force. Simple, right? This scales up to entire muscles too. When trained and untrained people max out on skill-free exercises like leg extensions, their strength can be accurately predicted by muscle thickness alone. And perhaps most convincing, research on elite powerlifters, we're talking world and national champions, shows that muscle mass directly impacts strength. A study by Breshew and colleagues found that every kilogram of extra muscle mass increased strength by 7.5 kilograms on the squat, 7.7 kilograms on the deadlift, and 5 kilograms on the bench press. So clearly, bigger muscles equal more strength. But here's where it gets interesting. These elite powerlifters all have similar biomechanics, similar skill levels, similar training styles focused on low reps and strength progression. They're basically clones of each other, so of course muscle size is the primary differentiator. But when you look at all experienced lifters, the correlation becomes much less clear. Current research suggests muscle development explains only about 65% of strength in experienced lifters. Think about that, just 65%. Imagine two guys with identical muscle development. One benches 100 kilograms. The other benches 135 kilograms. That's 35% more. That's a huge difference. So what accounts for it? All these other factors combined can make a massive difference in how strong you are. And if you're wondering whether you have good or bad biomechanics for lifting, keep watching, because I'll show you exactly how to tell. But first, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we're about to get into the fascinating science that coaches never tell you about. If our muscles pulled directly on barbells and dumbbells, the biggest muscle would always lift the most weight. But that's not reality. Our muscles pull on bones, which rotate around joints to move weights. And this changes everything due to how levers work. Check this out. I have a seesaw here. If I add the same weight at the same distance from the pivot point on both sides, it stays level, in equilibrium. But watch what happens when I move one weight further away from the pivot point. Suddenly that side appears heavier. So heavy that I need to add twice as much weight on the other side to balance it. Why? Because the further from the pivot point you apply force, the more you can lift on the other side. You're generating more torque with the same force. Torque. This is the main concept you need to understand. Torque is rotational force. It's the force that causes rotation around a joint or pivot point. Torque equals force times moment arm force, meaning the linear force acting on an object, and moment arm meaning the distance between the line of force and the point of rotation. Let me show you with simple math. Imagine a seesaw with 50 kilograms weights on each end. Gravitational force on Earth is 9.8 meters per second squared, so each weight exerts 490 newtons of force downward. If the distances from the pivot point are 1.5 meters on each side, these are the moment arms, then torque equals 490 newtons times 1.5 meters, which equals 735 newton meters on each side. Equal torques equals equilibrium. Now here are your two options to increase torque. Option 1, increase the force. Replace one 50 kilograms weight with a 60 kilograms weight, which is 588 newtons. Multiply by 1.5 meter moment arm equals 882 newton meters. That side drops because it has greater torque. Option 2, lengthen the moment arm. Keep both at 50 kilograms, but extend one moment arm from 1.5 meters to 2 meters. Now that side produces 490 newtons times 2 meters, which equals 980 newton meters compared to just 735 newton meters on the other side. The longer moment arm makes such a big difference that you'd need to place a 67 kilograms weight on the shorter side to balance it. Key takeaway: a lever is in equilibrium when the torques are equal on both sides, not the forces. And before we continue, if you're getting value from this, do me a favor and drop a like on this video. It helps the algorithm show this to more people who need to understand this stuff. When we talk about strength in the gym, we're actually talking about torque, not muscle force. The same forces can generate vastly different torque depending on your moment arms. Let's say you're curling a 10 kilograms dumbbell. The force of gravity is 98 newtons, and the distance from the dumbbell to your elbow is 35 centimeters. Dumbbell torque equals 98 newtons times 0.35 meters, which equals 34.3 newton meters. Now, the average bicep tendon attaché is about 5 centimeters from the elbow joint. To match the dumbbell's torque, required muscle force equals 34.3 newton meters divided by 0.05 meters, which equals 686 newtons. Wait a minute, that's 7 times more force than gravity. Your bicep has to generate 7 times more force than the weight of the dumbbell just to lift it. Why? Because the distance between tendon attachment and elbow is 7 times smaller than the distance between dumbbell and elbow. Your muscles work at a massive mechanical disadvantage. In fact, if the dumbbell were attached directly to your bicep tendon, your muscle could lift about 7 times more weight. That means if you curl 20 kilograms dumbbells, your bicep is generating enough force to theoretically lift 140 kilograms. Now here's where genetics come in. If we lengthen or shorten these moment arms, the required muscle force changes dramatically. For forearm length, a 37 centimeters forearm requires 6% more force, 720 newtons versus 686 newtons. A 33 centimeters forearm requires 6% less force, 646 newtons versus 686 newtons. But tendon insertion point, this is the big one. If your tendon is 4 centimeters from the elbow, it requires 25% more force, 858 newtons versus 686 newtons. If your tendon is 6 centimeters from the elbow, it requires 17% less force, 572 newtons versus 686 newtons. That's insane. A 2 centimeter difference in tendon attachment means one person can lift 20 to 30% more weight with the exact same muscle size. If you're still watching, comment below torque so I know you're following along. And make sure you're subscribed because we're about to build a physical model to prove this works in real life. I drove down to my dad's tool shed and we built a physical model of the bicep curl to demonstrate this. This lower end represents the forearm. I can attach a plate at the end to simulate a dumbbell. The joint acts as the elbow. This rope mimics the bicep pulling on the forearm. We drilled multiple holes so I can adjust attachment points and demonstrate how moving them affects torque. Right now I have a 0.5 kilograms plate about 36 centimeters from the joint, and the rope pulls from about 5 centimeters away. Based on the math, I need about 4 kilograms on the rope side to balance. Perfect equilibrium. Now if I add 0.5 kilograms more to the rope, it should lift the plate. It works. Watch what happens when I move the rope further from the joint. This increases the moment arm and makes the rope pull more powerful. We can no longer achieve equilibrium with the same weights. If I move the plate closer to the joint instead, we get the same effect. Reduced moment arm means reduced torque, so the rope can now lift the plate. Now check this out. I've reduced the rope weight to just 3 kilograms instead of 4 kilograms. But if I make both adjustments, move the rope attachment further and the plate closer, just 3 kilograms can now easily lift what required 4 kilograms before. We've reduced the required force by over 25% just by changing the moment arms. This demonstrates exactly how the same muscle can lift vastly different weights depending on forearm length and tendon attachment points. These strength differences are small on isolation exercises like curls because the weights are light, but on big compound lifts, we're talking differences of tens of kilograms. The squat is complex, multiple joints, dozens of muscles. For simplicity, let's focus on femur length and patellar tendon insertion. If the bar's center of gravity is over midfoot, the moment arms are the distances from the bar to your knee and hip joints. Let's say you're squatting 100 kilograms with 50 centimeters femurs. At just below parallel, the knee moment arm is 17 centimeters, which creates 166 newton meters of torque, and the hip moment arm is 33 centimeters, which creates 323 newton meters of torque. But if you had 45 centimeters femurs instead, the knee moment arm becomes 15 centimeters, creating 147 newton meters of torque. That's 10% less. And the hip moment arm becomes 30 centimeters, creating 294 newton meters of torque, also 10% less. If two lifters were identical in every way except one had 5 centimeters shorter femurs, he'd need 10% less muscle force to lift the same weight. Now here's the game changer. The patellar tendon moment arm averages about 5 centimeters in adult males. But a study analyzing 13 male cadavers found this vary by up to 1 centimeter between individuals of the same size. That 1 centimeter makes a massive difference. With a 5 centimeters moment arm, you require 2,940 newtons of quad force. With a 6 centimeters moment arm, you require only 2,450 newtons of quad force. That's almost 20% less force required. And we have proof this works in real humans. A study by Maiden Wilkinson showed that individuals with longer patellar moment arms produce higher knee extension torque at the same quad volume, body height, and body weight. Their graphs show individuals with essentially identical quad size, but up to 50% difference in torque output. And individuals with longer moment arms generated up to 60% more torque per cubic centimeter of muscle. If someone has optimal biomechanics, short femurs, and favorable tendon insertions, they might lift 10 to 30% more than someone less gifted, despite producing the same muscle force. Quick reminder, if you're finding this valuable, hit that like button and subscribe. We're about to cover some critical nuances that will change how you think about your own training. Before you draw the wrong conclusions, let me clarify some critical points. Your takeaway should not be that longer limbs always hurt strength. That's usually true, but not always. Look at these two skeletons of the same height. One on the left has a longer torso and shorter limbs. The other on the right has a shorter torso, but longer limbs. The skeleton with longer limbs has a clear disadvantage in the squat. Longer femurs create longer knee and hip moments. But on the deadlift, his long limbs and short torso are a massive advantage. He doesn't have to bend as low to grab the bar. There's less hip flexion required, shorter hip moment, legs almost fully stretched at the sticking point, and shorter range of motion. Guys with extraordinarily long limbs and short torsos have ridiculous deadlift advantages. Look at these examples. Torso almost upright, legs nearly straight at the bottom, minimal bar travel. These guys are built for deadlifting, but probably struggle with most other exercises, especially upper body lifts. All else equal, shorter lifters have an advantage in strength to body weight ratio. Longer body segments require more force to generate the required torque. But short people only have a relative strength advantage, meaning strength compared to body weight. For absolute strength, tall people dominate because they can carry more muscle mass. This is why all-time records in powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting are held by huge, tall men. You might think you can predict someone's strength based on bone structure alone. Long femurs equals weak squat. Short arms equals great bench press. This is mostly true, but doesn't work every time. You can find lifters that excel precisely in the exercises they should struggle with based on their bone structure. And you can find lifters that are very weak in the exercises they appear perfectly built for. Why? Because tendon insertions can completely offset the effect of bone length or amplify it. Let me show you. I've prepared this chart which shows how the distance of tendon attachment affects the muscle force required to lift a 10 kilograms dumbbell at different forearm lengths. When you only look at bone length, you'd expect the individual with the longest forearms to be weakest in the dumbbell curl. But having favorable tendon insertions can completely offset his disadvantage and make him stronger than an individual with shorter forearms. For example, a guy with a 37 centimeters forearm and 6 centimeters insertion needs less muscle force to lift a 10 kilograms dumbbell than a guy with a 33 centimeters forearm and 5 centimeters insertion. The more favorable tendon insertion has completely offset the effect of the bone length. And it's even more interesting to consider how the tendon attachment point can amplify the mechanical advantage of short bones. A guy with short forearms and a bicep that inserts further away from the elbow is a recipe for amazing strength. A guy like this could curl a lot of weight without impressive bicep size. The opposite scenario is a guy with long forearms and unfavorable tendon insertions. He has to exert 40% more muscle force, 950 newtons compared to 540 newtons, to lift the same weight as the guy with favorable biomechanics. This could be the guy that has impressive bicep size, but pretty pathetic strength. Individuals who are lucky to have both favorable tendon insertions and favorable bone structures have amazing strength. On the other hand, unfavorable insertions and segment lengths lead to pathetic strength. And the other combinations result in average strength or a little bit above or below average. My personal opinion is that favorable and unfavorable tendon insertions mostly explain why some individuals are unusually strong or weak for their size. For example, I think my lats attach a bit further away from the shoulder than average, and this is why I could do 5 chin-ups with 30 kilograms as early as my second year of serious lifting. This is quite unusual. A lot of serious lifters never reach that weight. Or another example, some people don't understand how Jeffrey Verity Schofield has an unusually weak bench press, given his muscle development. Part of the explanation is that Jeffrey doesn't train for strength, but it's also possible that his pecs attach unusually close to the shoulder, and this puts him at a mechanical disadvantage on that lift. It's also very important to note that tendon insertions tend to scale with bone length. In theory, you would expect that tall lifters would automatically have a strength disadvantage because their longer bones create longer moment arms. However, the distance between the joint and the tendon attachment point tends to increase with bone length, thus offsetting the mechanical disadvantage. This is why in the general population, tall people aren't noticeably weaker than shorter people, and why muscle mass tends to be the primary differentiator in terms of strength. Think about it. If our muscles operate at a mechanical disadvantage of 7 or 8 times, then the stress on our tendons and joints is also 7 or 8 times higher than you would expect based on the weights you're using. For example, if you're lifting 100 kilograms on the bench press, that means your tendons are subjected to forces equivalent to lifting 700 or 800 kilograms. Is it any wonder that we get tendinitis and other injuries so easily? It's actually surprising that we don't fall apart in the gym. Here's something fascinating. Models suggest that muscle growth can increase the moment arm of the muscle force. If this is true, bigger muscles are able to lift more weight not only because they produce more force, but also because they can generate more torque due to creating a greater distance between the line of force and the axis of rotation. Bigger muscles may thus have a mechanical advantage compared to smaller muscles. They can lift more weight per unit of force because they pull at a slightly more favorable angle. The slight lengthening of muscle moment arms with hypertrophy would help explain why strength typically increases more than muscle size across a training career. As muscles get bigger, they may also become more mechanically efficient. It's also interesting to note that intramuscular fat should have a similar effect. More fat between muscle fibers increases muscle size and alters the angle at which it pulls. This increases the distance between the line of force and the axis of rotation, potentially explaining why a higher body fat percentage improves strength in certain exercises like the bench press and squat. And I'm thinking, could the loss of intramuscular fat be one of the reasons why we tend to lose strength when getting lean? Finally, a huge takeaway from this video should be that despite everything, increased strength is still the best indicator of muscle growth within the same individual. All these factors explain why you cannot compare the muscle size and strength of two individuals to one another. The guy that builds the most muscle may not necessarily be the one that gains the most strength, though he usually will be. However, when you look at the progress of a single individual over time, most of those factors remain unchanged, and for this reason, strength gains will closely correlate with muscle growth. So when you assess your progress over time, higher strength will usually indicate muscle growth. This is why I always say that if you are succeeding to build muscle, you should be able to lift progressively heavier weights over time. This is assuming it's on the same exercise for the same number of reps and with the same lifting technique. On the other hand, if you are not able to lift progressively heavier weights over time, you should take this as a warning sign that you are failing to grow, even if you are getting pumps, experiencing soreness and working out consistently. So there you have it, the strength paradox explained. Skinny guys with favorable biomechanics can absolutely outlift much bigger guys with poor biomechanics. But for you personally, focus on progressive overload because within your own body, strength gains equal muscle gains. If you found this video valuable, make sure you've hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below telling me what your best lift is and whether you think you have good or bad biomechanics for it. And I'll see you in the next video.